Hello my dear students, hope you are doing fine. In this session, we are going to talk about pH and pH scale. At the end of this session, you will be able to define pH, describe the pH scale, measure the pH of a solution using pH paper and pH meter, infer that the pH meter is more accurate than the pH paper. But before watching the video, you should prepare some papers, pen or pencil, and at the end of this lesson you will need the summary worksheet. In order to identify if a solution is acid or base, we use some color indicators. For example, the blue litmus paper for indicating acid or red litmus paper in order to identify if it's base. Or we can use the phenolphthalein to identify if it's a base. But in order to identify which acid or which base is stronger, we use the pH. The pH measures the strength of an acid or base, considering the concentration of H+ ions in the solution. So the pH is the power of H+ ions. The pH has a scale which is a series from 0 to 14, where the numbers that are nearer to 0 are very acidic, the numbers that are nearer to 14 are very basic, and pH 7 is neutral. As demonstrated in this figure, when the solution is said to be acidic, the pH should be between 0 and 7, while when the solution is said to be neutral, the pH should be exact at 7, and when the solution is said to be base, the pH should be between 7 and 14. Now, the more concentration of H+ ions, the solution is more acidic, then the pH will be less. So, as the pH decreases, the concentration of H+ ions increases. While for basic solutions, as the pH increases, the concentration of H+ ions decreases. So when the pH decreases and the concentration of H+ ions increases, the solution is said to be more acidic. While when pH increases and the concentration of ions decreases, the solution is said to be more basic. Now let us evaluate ourselves. If we have a solution A with pH equal to 5 and solution B with pH equal to 11, which solution is acidic and which solution is basic? Solution A is said to be an acidic solution since the pH is less than 7, while solution B is said to be basic since the pH is more than 7. Now let us consider a solution A with pH equal 5 and solution C with pH equal 2. Both solutions are acidic, but which one is more acidic? As you remember that as pH decreases, the acidity increases. Then solution C with less pH is more acidic than solution A with higher pH. Okay. Now for solution B, which is basic, we are comparing to solution D, which is also basic since the pH of both is more than 7. But which solution do you think is more basic? When the pH increases, the solution is said to be more basic. So solution B is said to be more basic than solution D since it has higher pH. So till now we know that the pH scale is a scale represents the pHs of acidic solutions and basic solutions, where pH of a neutral solutions is 7. And as the pH decreases, the solution is said to be more acidic, and as the pH increases, the solution is said to be more basic. How could we determine the pH of a solution? In order to determine the pH of a solution, we use two methods. The first method is the pH paper. The pH paper is a paper that changes its color when dipped in a solution. This color then is compared to a scale to identify the nature of this solution. For example, if we dip the pH paper in solution, this color will change into blue. Then after comparing it to a pH scale, the pH is 11. Then this solution is said to be basic. Another experiment, if we dip the pH paper into another solution, the color of the pH paper is green. The pH is neutral. Finally, if we dip it in a solution and the color is red, the solution is said to be acidic. The second method in order to identify the pH is the pH meter, where the pH meter is an instrument that is used in order to identify the pH by measuring the concentration of H plus ions in the solution. Which method is more accurate, the pH paper or the pH meter? Of course, it is the pH meter, because the pH meter indicates the precise pH of a solution, while the pH paper indicates the approximate pH of a solution. Now let us do this application. It's the typical exercise, page 46. A solution of NaOH is added progressively to a solution of hydrochloric acid, where NaOH is a base. Why? Since the OH is the ion represented in basic solutions, and hydrochloric acid, of course, it's an acid. Then a chemical reaction occurs. The pH of the obtained solution is measured along the experiment using a pH meter. In the solution, we added phenolphthalein. Why? In order to indicate the nature of the solution. The following graph shows the variation of the pH while adding the NaOH solution. This graph represents the variation of the pH of the solution, acidic solution, as function of the volume added of NaOH in milliliter. Part 1. Indicate the pH of the used acidic solution. Justify the answer. In order to indicate the pH of the used acidic solution, we have to measure it before any drop of NaOH was added. Then the volume of NaOH is 0. So the pH is 1. The pH of the acidic solution is 1 because when the added volume of NaOH was 0 milliliter, The value of pH of solution was 1. Part 2. Write the chemical equation of the reaction taking place between NaOH and hydrochloric acid. Then give its name. The chemical reaction between NaOH and hydrochloric acid, between base and acid, is called what? Neutralization equation. It is between acid and base that produces salt plus water. So the acid, which is HCl, reacts with base, which is NaOH, to produce the salt, which is NaCl, and finally water. Now part 3, indicate the volume of NaOH that makes the solution neutral. The solution in neutral, it means the pH is equal to 7. Then we have to justify our answer. When the pH is equal to 7, referring to the graph of course, the volume of NaOH added was 20 milliliter. So the volume is 20 milliliter. Since the solution is neutral, then pH is equal to 7. Graphically, we can indicate that the volume of NaOH added is 20 milliliter. Now, part 4, Alzarine is a substance that gives violet color in a basic solution and red color in an acidic solution. Some drop of Alzarine were added to the beaker containing the acidic solution. By referring to the graph, complete the following table. Added volume of NaOH, pH, and the color of the solution. When the pH was 2, the added volume of NaOH was 10 milliliter. Since the pH was 2, it is less than 7, then the solution is acidic, so the color of the solution was red. Why? Since the Alzarine is red in acidic solution. Now, when the added volume of NaOH was 30, the pH was approximately 13. The pH 13 is more than 7, then it is basic solution, so the color of the solution is violet. Finally, we can summarize the video in the following ideas. The pH has a pH scale, which is a series from 0 to 14. Acidic solutions has pH less than 7. Basic solutions has pH more than 7. And neutral solutions has pH equal to 7. The pH is measured by pH paper or by pH meter, but the pH meter is more accurate than pH paper.